This video is sponsored by World Anvil. Welcome to Critical Role Demystified. I'm Mike Christensen, and this is the series where we break down the lessons we can learn from each episode of Critical Role. Today we're diving into episode 19 of the Vox Machina campaign, Trial of the Take, Part 2. As a reminder, the party has been split into two groups to perform an initiation/test to join a monster hunting guild called the Slayer's Take. Each group has been partnered up with some guest stars who are joining them for these missions. Travis is running late, really late, so Laura is playing Grog for the beginning of this episode. Also, we discover that the audience voted on which monsters the group would be hunting. So once again, the audience is to thank and to blame for the adult white dragon they are tasked with hunting in this episode. Also, a correction from the last episode in this series. I said that you can't sleep in your armor, but apparently that's not always true. A few commenters pointed out that Xanathar's guide specifically says you can sleep in light armor. And so even though that book wasn't out yet, I imagine this was either a rule from older editions and or just an unspoken assumption in the player's handbook. So Matt wasn't ignoring a rule about sleeping in armor since all of these characters wear light armor. That being said, that kind of makes what he's doing in that scene in the last episode even more of an example of Matt honoring the player's choices, since Taliesin described Percy's pajamas as a joke, and Matt rolled with it and took it to its logical extension. He wasn't deciding to enforce a rule he ignored for everyone else, he was just reminding the players that their decisions have consequences, and doing so in a fun way. Last note before we begin, for the rest of the Slayer's Take arc, I'm probably going to upload these videos without clips. I don't think this is going to be the default for all Demystified videos going forward, it's just necessary right now for a few reasons. Chief among them being it helps these videos get made faster, and considering the holidays are rushing up, that's going to be the best way to get them done and not miss an installment. In the new year, I plan to use clips as needed, but just might not lean on them as heavily as I used to, or maybe I will, I don't know, we'll see what ends up happening when I get to them. That's going to be in January. But for now, expect I won't have any clips through episode 21, maybe 22, depending how far ahead I'm able to write and film and edit these videos. But for those who know the campaign well, don't worry. Episode 23 will absolutely have clips. It would be literally impossible for me to do that video without them. This episode opens with the party rolling initiative against two frost giants, so here are some highlights. Grog tries to negotiate with the giants, since he speaks their language, but Laura rolls a 1. And it doesn't help that Percy had already shot one of the giants with a natural 20 and done quite a bit of damage. Lyra casts Disintegrate and deals 80 points of damage to one of the giants. These party members are starting to get pretty powerful. This campaign has officially reached higher level play. Zahra casts Mass Suggestion on the giants, asking them to help kill their common enemy, the white dragon. The other players hold back to see how the giants respond, and then the giants put their axes away and agree to lead the party to the dragon. The party takes a short rest, and Scanlan levels up, because the party members tend to level up asynchronously in Campaign 1 thanks to Matt's experience points system. Matt will eventually switch to milestone leveling for Campaign 2 and beyond. The party discovers that the giants serve the dragon because the dragon has essentially enslaved these two giants after killing all of their friends and family. Zahra and the others try to convince the giants to fight with them, but thanks to some bad rolls, Matt can only tell his players that this is a process, and they'll have to wait and see how it plays out. On the way to the dragon, through the mountain cave, they pass through a ruined frost giant village, and inside there are some giants who were frozen solid and suffocated. So this is a moment for a lesson. Matt does not make it easy to recruit these giants, but does not take this option fully off the table. He probably hadn't decided yet whether or not the giants are going to side with the adventurers. It's not just because he has a battle planned against a white dragon and doesn't want to make it too easy. While it probably is true that he might want to wait and see whether bringing in the giants will make the fight too easy or not, or whether they'll be the only thing that makes the fight even winnable, I don't think that's the entirety of what's happening here. And it's more than just the fact that these giants have had their will broken, although that's part of it. Like that Season 1 episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender on the prison ship, it's going to take more than one speech to rally these giants to fight their oppressors. But I think there's even more happening here. Matt probably wants to wait and see exactly how the party treats these giants. He's seen these heroes kill unarmed prisoners or intimidate hostages, and he doesn't want to commit to the giants helping now, right when they meet the heroes, only for the giants to be treated like crap between now and the dragon fight. That would make those giants not want to help after all, but taking something away from D&D players, including the allegiance of powerful NPCs, is always met with resistance. These characters' actions need to matter, and so by not overpromising whether or not the giants will help, he's providing yet another object lesson of how their choices matter. the things they do have a tangible impact on the world. Of course, Zahra turns out to be enormously empathetic toward the giants, which goes a long way toward changing Vox Machina's approach to handling these negotiations. She doesn't just try to rally them based on some idea that they'll be better off, or try to argue from a selfish perspective. No, she goes deeper than that. Every moment where we see any humanity from the giants, like when they pass through the ruins of the giant village, she points out how these two giants have been wronged and deserve justice. I talked a lot in the last episode of this series about how much I love Lyra, but make no mistake, Zahra is an incredible character, and Mary Elizabeth McGlynn is a fantastic D&D player. These games were her very first games of D&D, and as somebody pointed out in the comments of my last video, she took to it like a duck to water. Lyra casts legend lore to find out more about the White Dragon, and we get an excellent sequence where Matt describes flashes of visuals and emotions recording the dragon's life and experiences. Hatching, being hunted, slaying the mortals who came to kill it. This dragon has recently taken the name Rimefang, and seems to be in the early stages of making itself known as a presence in the world, where it can begin to cultivate an aura of fear and intimidation toward the local populace. And Lyra remembers there was another contract on a white dragon less than a year ago, which ended with a well-established group of hunters never returning. It's possible the guild doesn't want this group to succeed. They briefly consider what would happen if they retreated, but everybody would get kicked out of the guild, and Vox Machina would go to jail, or worse. And as Percy points out, this changes nothing. This is also a great lesson for DMs who are resistant to giving their players a lot of information when their players cast something like legend lore. Here's a quick line from the description of that spell. The lore might consist of current tales, forgotten stories, or even secret lore that has never been widely known. If the thing you named isn't of legendary importance, you gain no information. You can absolutely make the case that there just isn't a lot of legendary stuff to learn about Rimefang yet. He's relatively young as far as adult dragons go, and he's only just now making an impact on the world. From the vision Lyra gets, it doesn't really seem like Rimefang has a reputation for a spell like this to latch onto. But instead of just saying, no, there aren't really any rumors about this dragon yet, there's not a lot of secret lore either, Matt just takes a different tactic. Maybe this is just his approach to a spell like legend lore. We've talked before about how he interprets scrying differently from how the book presents it, so the same might be true of this spell. But no matter the reason, it's important to see how he honors the choice to cast this spell, this 5th level spell, which Lyra chose to cast now instead of saving that spell slot for the battle. The sequence he describes is almost like scrying on the dragon in fast forward across centuries, and it absolutely works. This spell itself is kind of undramatic in that regard. It just tells you that you get a lot of information, even when it says that the info might be couched in figurative language. It still implies you're just getting an info dump. But as we've discussed before, Matt is a very visual person, and he's got a good instinct for drama. Getting a bunch of exposition isn't really that fun. Seeing it play out in front of your eyes is exciting. I honestly can't think of another time legend lore was cast on Critical Role, so I don't know if Matt would describe future instances in the same way if it happened. But I do expect his approach would be similarly visual. That just seems like how he handles a lot of spells. I also want to acknowledge how seamless this moment was, where Matt had information ready for legend lore. I don't know if he helped Felicia Day create her character or not. Unlike a lot of other guests on Critical Role, she had a ton of experience playing D&D. So if he didn't help her, he might not have known that she even had legend lore. But he whipped out a sequence where he abstracted the entire history of this dragon's life, and managed to do so in a way that informed the players that they'd been put into a position where they might very well die, and that the people sending them on this mission knew that. Of course, improvising a story about the history of your evil dragon throughout the decades and centuries is a lot easier if you've prepared some detailed history, which is easier than ever with today's sponsor, World Anvil. World Anvil is a digital toolset that you can use to record information about your world before your players ever see it. And then, if your players do cast something like legend lore, you can easily give them access to the article, while still hiding details that this sort of spell wouldn't reveal, like the monster's stat block, which, yes, can be added to a World Anvil page. You can visit worldanvil.com and use the promo code SUPERGEEK to save 40% off of any annual membership. Thank you so much to World Anvil for sponsoring this video. The party comes to a wall of ice, and they have to break it to get through, which they do, but when the ice falls, they all take a bunch of damage. keen viewers might notice that for our purposes, this wall of ice is something that can be moved or pushed aside to get past, so it's kind of like a door, isn't it? It begins. Anyway, they make their way up the inside of the mountain caves, and they find another trap, a delicate bit of flooring that gives way and reveals a pit dropping into icy spikes. We should, at some point, make a whole other video about traps, but here we can see the benefit of traps in a dungeon. They add tension to a journey, and they also make it possible for your party to take damage or spend resources. Thankfully, Lyra has Firebolt, so she can use a cantrip for the walls they encounter, and they manage to get around the pit without any trouble. But there will be many times in the future of Critical Role where the party will have to spend some real spell slots to get around some traps. The party talks a bit about strategy for how they want to handle this fight, but before they can figure too much out, they're at the dragon's lair. And then they go to their break. And look, I don't talk about this often enough, but Matt is pretty good about finding really dramatic points to take a break. This seems to be a skill that has developed over these first 20 episodes. Now that he knows there's going to be a break halfway through, he either tries to find a break in the action, or, my favorite, he finds the most dramatic point he can to go to a break. Obviously, a dragon fight will take some time, and the party doesn't really know what their plan is, so giving them a break now is the best thing for them. But also, think of a break like a commercial break in a TV show. You want to drop it into the moment when things are tense, so your players badly want to know what is going to happen next. It makes it more likely that the break won't take too long, that people won't meander back to the table. They'll rush back just as soon as they can. Also, they come back from the break, and Travis is finally present. That's another nice reason to, take a break before the final boss fight. If one of your players isn't there yet, you should go ahead and pause so they have a little bit more of a chance to get there before the fight. Hi folks, it's Future Mike. I just wanted to come in and thank a viewer who sent through some gifts off of my Amazon wishlist. Thank you so much, Evan Cole. I received the World of Critical Role book. This is sort of a behind-the-scenes document for the entire run of the show, and I really wanted to get my hands on this, not just because it would be helpful for research purposes for this series, but also just because I wanted to read it. And Evan also sent me a capture card. I am planning to, in the new year, at some point start streaming some video games and maybe looking at what lessons we can learn from them for our D&D game. And so that device is going to help me a lot. Thank you so much, Evan. If you want to send me something off the Amazon wish list, the link is in the doobly-doo. I know that some people also want to send things that are not on the Amazon wish list for whatever reason, either because they're not available on Amazon or you just don't want to give money to Amazon. No matter what, that's totally fine. So I have actually set up a P.O. box per some people's requests. The addresses for those are below. There's a different address if it's a letter versus like a package. Please don't address it to Super Geek Mike. My name is Mike Christensen, and that is the name that's on my ID. So that's what I need to show if I'm picking up a package at the post office. So again, the addresses are below. Thank you so much, Evan, and thank you anyone who is interested in sending anything through. I really appreciate it. Now back to the show. The dragon beckons the group forward, and Scanlan leads the group out, carrying a bag that has a diamond inside that they can show to Rimefang as an offering of peace. The bag also has Percy's frag grenade he completed in the last episode. The goal is to pretend they have an offering for Rimefang and put down a bag that they can blow up from a safe distance. Once they enter the lair, they can see that some former adventurers and giants are frozen solid, and there is lots of treasure frozen to the ice walls. Scanlan tries to negotiate with the dragon to put it at ease, and... Okay, one clip here. I gotta do one clip here.
Insufferable insect into the heart of my domain.
I'm called Burt Reynolds, and I take great offense at that.
The dragon's head turns to the side for a moment with a glance of confusion and almost amusement that you speak up to it with such a disrespectful manner.
You can call me Mr. Reynolds or simply Burt.
The wings unfurl outward, and its head looks down upon you directly.
Bert.
I just added so much time to my editing process, but it was worth it. The dragon prepares to kill the party and commands the giants to help. Zahra psychically asks the giants for their help. They've seen what the giants have been through now, and they can help the giants free themselves from the dragon's tyranny. The dragon rolls an intimidation check against the giants, and Zahra rolls a persuasion check, which is a great way to resolve this. Zahra rolls a 27. We don't hear what the dragon rolled. And the giants pull their axes and decide to seize this moment to try to fight Rimefang. And it's initiative, and it's a hell of an initiative, so here are a few highlights. Percy got a natural 20 on his initiative and got a 28. Lyra rolled a natural 1 and got a -1. Zahra casts Witch Bolt on her first turn, which, for those who don't know, is a constant bolt of electricity that does damage every turn. They get another lesson the hard way how legendary resistance works when Scanlan casts Eye Bite and the dragon fails its saving throw and then chooses to succeed instead. The dragon's breath pretty quickly kills one of the giants, the one that had been partially disintegrated. Scanlan gets hit with a natural 20 from the dragon's tail, which, thanks to Laura pointing out its proximity, also detonates the grenade. She's a very honest player tonight. She also pointed out that she gets no benefits against her favorite enemy in combat, despite Matt and the Twitch chat insisting otherwise. Oh, and then Vex's exploding arrow also hits Rimefang. Some great payoffs on Percy's inventions in this fight. As the dragon tries to fly away, we get the first use of the Warcaster feat to cast a spell as an attack of opportunity, and Scanlan uses Bigby's hand to drag the dragon back down.
As the dragon brings its wings up, whoosh, whoosh, the hand
Stay.
grabs its wings together and forces it back onto the ground. It shakes off the effect, but it's unable to fly
You
away.
will leave when Burt Reynolds tells you to leave.
The dragon retaliates by knocking Scanlan unconscious and knocking out 2 death saving throws for him. But Grog feeds Scanlan a healing potion immediately. Thank goodness. One of Vex's attacks hits the remaining giant, which essentially ends the suggestion spell. And maybe the fact that the fight isn't going awesome played a role as well. He starts regretting his allegiance to the party, but before he can do anything to our heroes, Grog kills him. The dragon knocks Percy unconscious. Lyra fireballs the dragon, but Percy is still in the radius and takes a hit. Then on his turn, he rolls a failed save, so Percy is also down 2 death saves. The dragon unleashes another breath attack, dealing a bunch of damage to the party and knocking Lyra unconscious. But Zahra hits it with a hellish rebuke, a burst of flame from her body because she took damage. And Zahra kills the dragon. Scanlan makes himself look like Aldor and feeds Lyra a healing potion, and when she wakes up, they briefly make out. The party begins removing the relevant pieces of the dragon to fulfill their contract, but thanks to some low rolls, they don't manage to salvage more than 3 teeth. Thankfully, this is not the first white dragon they've killed, and they have almost 3 dozen other white dragon teeth in the bag of holding, so they can still deliver the required material. Same goes for the dragon claws. Then they scavenge the rest of the lair, going for pieces of gold, magic items on the dead adventurers, and whatever they can find on the dead giants. But after an hour in the cave, the lair begins to melt around them, so they retreat. As they return to Vasselheim, they notice that the blizzard itself is fading. When they get back to the Slayer's Take Guildhall, we find out that Vanessa, the Huntmaster, bet on the party succeeding. Her husband bet against them. The party receives their bounty and asks, what was the deal with this contract? Were they meant to lose? Vanessa figured they would either run with their tails between their legs or accomplish exactly what they did today. After all, they sounded confident in their skills, so really, what harm was there in sending them after a dragon that other hunters had failed to slay? That does it for this episode, but okay, one final thing. Because in my first Critical Role video ever, I talked about how much I disliked the Geek and Sundry podcast version of Campaign 1. And part of that is because there are some great moments lost because they occurred outside of the game session itself. Case in point, at the end of each episode, this point in the show, they read lots and lots of fan mail. And while I would never insist that these full sequences should be in the podcast, there are a few gems that I wish they had thought to include. My favorite, and honestly the one that I'm the most upset did not appear, comes in a couple of episodes. But this one was great too, because somebody sent the cast a restraining order, directed to Lyra, on behalf of Aldor. I actually was going to put a clip here, but it's kind of a long moment of reading this thing aloud, and there are no subtitles for post-game content on these videos, which makes my job way harder when I add subtitles, so it's kind of a challenge to depict this moment in the format I have right now. Anyway, just another great moment, and a reminder that the podcast episodes of Campaign 1 are kind of bad for lots of reasons. Thanks for watching. We'll be back in 2 weeks with the first part of the other Adventurers mission in Trial of the Take Part 3. This episode is solid. I think it's worth watching. Some housekeeping notes. As we're getting to the end of the year, I am looking for a tax preparer in Southern California. Someone in the larger LA area would be ideal, who has experience working with influencers. I launched a YouTube channel and also bought a house this year, so my taxes are probably going to get kind of weird. If you have someone you recommend, please drop their referral information in the comments below. If you want to support the channel, there are a few ways you can do that. You can subscribe and ring the bell to get these episodes as soon as they come out. The more of you who watch these early, the better they do, and the more the channel grows. You can support me on Patreon. Every new patron at any dollar amount, even $1 a month, gets me closer to the goal of making these videos weekly instead of bi-weekly. You can join my Discord and hang out with a community of lovely people. And you can sign up for my newsletter to get notified about updates when I've got stuff going on. Click here to see a video I made about some advice for creating characters with a specific visual in mind. I think you'd really like that one. Until next time, play fair and have fun.